This is Sarah. She's a senior at Redwood University. Sarah is popular, smart, and kind. Everyone loves her. She's at the top of her class.
I feel like everything is going my way. I have great friends and I'm doing well in my studies. Or so it seems.
The whispering begins subtly. A snide remark here, a cold shoulder there. Sarah notices the change in the atmosphere. She tries to ignore it, but the negativity starts to affect her.
I don't understand why people are acting this way. What did I do wrong?
A group of students, led by the envious Jessica, decides to target Sarah. They spread rumors. They try to sabotage her academics.
It's getting harder to stay positive. I feel so alone.
The words on the screen both fascinated and frightened Sarah. Could these silent weapons really be the answer to her problems?
This could be what I need. But is it right to use these techniques?
Sarah learned about mirroring, the subtle art of imitating someone's behavior to gain their trust.
These techniques are powerful. I could use them to turn things around.
The weight of her newfound knowledge settled upon Sarah. She realized that these weapons were not to be used lightly.
I have to be careful. These techniques can help, but I need to use them wisely.
She delved deeper into each weapon, spending hours practicing the techniques on her own. Sarah observed her own interactions, noticing how even the smallest gestures or changes in tone could influence others.
It's amazing how much you can learn just by listening and observing.
Sarah discovered the power of silence, using it strategically to make others uncomfortable or to emphasize her points. She learned to observe, to analyze, and to respond with calculated intention instead of emotional reactivity.
I feel stronger and more in control than ever before.
Sarah's newfound confidence and control were evident to everyone around her.
The university became my training ground. I started small, using the techniques in low-stakes situations.
She used liking to her advantage, finding common ground with classmates she previously considered rivals.
My observations became sharper, allowing me to anticipate the actions and reactions of those around me. I paid attention to the subtle cues of body language, recognizing signs of insecurity, jealousy, and even admiration in the eyes of my peers.
She learned to read the unspoken language of social dynamics, deciphering the power struggles and hidden agendas that played out around her. The first opportunity to test her newfound skills presented itself during a debate team meeting. Jessica, always eager to undermine Sarah, publicly questioned one of Sarah's ideas, dismissing it with a condescending smirk.
Instead of engaging in a heated argument, I calmly and deliberately employed mirroring. I subtly mirrored Jessica's posture, tone of voice, and even her facial expressions.
Jessica, disarmed by Sarah's unexpected behavior, stumbled over her words, her initial confidence waning.
The other team members, sensing a shift in power, began to nod in agreement.
Sarah's next target was a gossiping duo known for spreading rumors about her. She had overheard them planning to sabotage her upcoming presentation by spreading false information about its content.
I casually approached the duo, feigning concern. I overheard you talking about my presentation, I began, my voice hushed. I'm worried about sharing some of the information because it's still confidential.
The gossips, intrigued by the air of secrecy, leaned in, eager for any scrap of information.
By the time I walked away, the gossips were practically salivating with anticipation, their desire for the scarce information consuming them.
The rumors about Sarah's presentation spread like wildfire, but to her advantage. The scarce information became the talk of the campus, generating buzz and excitement. When the day of the presentation arrived, the lecture hall was packed, filled with students eager to witness Sarah's supposed groundbreaking research.
I was ready. I knew this was my moment to shine.
Sarah delivered a stellar presentation, her ideas well-researched and eloquently presented.
With each successful use of the silent weapons, my confidence grew. I was no longer the timid target of their cruelty. I was a force to be reckoned with, wielding the power of psychology with calculated precision.
News of Sarah's victories against Jessica and the gossip mongers spread quickly. Fear replaced envy in the eyes of some. They now saw Sarah as someone not to be trifled with. Others, however, felt a surge of defiance. Among them was a group known as the Elite. Led by the arrogant and cunning Mark, they were the epitome of privilege and entitlement. They saw Sarah's growing influence as a threat to their social order.
The first move was to try and discredit Sarah in the eyes of Professor Adams, the head of the debate team, and a highly respected figure in the university.
Professor Adams, known for his fairness, decided to observe Sarah more closely. Sarah, sensing a change in Professor Adams's demeanor, knew she had to act fast. She had the perfect weapon for this situation: reciprocity. She began subtly doing small favors for Professor Adams, like bringing him coffee or offering to help with research.
I approached him in the hallway with 2 cups of coffee. "Good morning, Professor Adams. I thought you might like one," I said with a warm smile.
Next, she targeted Professor Adams' known passion for ancient history. She spent hours researching a topic he had mentioned in passing, compiling her findings in a well-written report.
"I stumbled upon this while working on my own project," I said with a shrug. "I thought you might find it interesting."
Professor Adams, touched by Sarah's thoughtfulness and impressed by her initiative, felt a surge of gratitude and admiration.
"Sarah, your work ethic and dedication are truly impressive," he beamed, his earlier doubts forgotten.
Meanwhile, the elite continued their smear campaign against Sarah. They spread rumors about her personal life, hoping to damage her reputation. But to their surprise, their efforts seemed to backfire.
By appearing unfazed and continuing to excel, I made them seem petty and insecure.
Sarah, using social proof to her advantage, had turned their game against them. By appearing unfazed by their attacks and continuing to excel in her studies and extracurricular activities, she made them seem petty and insecure.
"I've won, but at what cost?"
Sarah had won. She had successfully neutralized her enemies, secured her position, and even gained the favor of those who had doubted her. But as she basked in the glow of her triumph, a chilling realization washed over her.
Is this victory worth the cost?
The stage was set, the annual Redwood University Debate Championship. It was Sarah's last chance to lead her team to victory before graduation. The energy in the auditorium crackled with anticipation. But this year, the stakes were higher. Everyone knew this wasn't just about winning a debate. It was a battle for social supremacy.
This is it, my last chance.
Sarah, backstage, could hear the whispers. Rumors of the elite's plan to publicly humiliate her during the debate swirled around her.
Have I been naive? Have I been blinded by my pursuit of power?
Sarah's heart pounded. Had she been naive? Had her pursuit of power blinded her to the potential consequences?
No, I won't be a victim. Not tonight.
The debate began. The topic, the ethics of persuasion. Irony hung heavy in the air. Sarah's mind raced. She had to be careful. Every word, every gesture was being scrutinized.
Stay calm, stay focused.
As the debate progressed, the elite made their move. One by one, they took the stage, presenting their carefully constructed arguments. They wove a narrative of Sarah as a master manipulator, preying on the weaknesses of others for her own gain.
Sarah has used her influence to manipulate and control. This is the evidence.
The audience gasped as the elite unveiled their evidence. Murmurs of disbelief and suspicion rippled through the crowd.
They're twisting everything, but I can't let them break me.
Sarah listened, her anger mounting. They were twisting everything she had done, turning her self-defense into an act of aggression.
I won't let them break me. You've heard their version of events. You've seen their carefully curated evidence, their distorted interpretations. But I ask you, have you ever considered why?
The audience leaned forward, captivated by Sarah's unexpected shift in tone.
Perhaps they fear what happens when the playing field is leveled, when someone dares to challenge their carefully constructed hierarchy.
Sarah's gaze locked onto Mark's.
They accuse me of manipulation. But what is more manipulative than using your privilege and influence to silence those who threaten your position?
The audience gasped. The tables had turned.
I've endured relentless bullying. The so-called silent weapons were not tools of dominance, but a desperate attempt to protect myself.
Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, but her voice remained strong. She had removed her mask, revealing her vulnerability and her strength. The audience was transfixed. A hush fell over the auditorium. Sarah's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken truths. Mark, his face pale and his arrogance gone, tried to speak, to defend himself, but no words came out. The audience, moved by Sarah's vulnerability, turned on their former tormentors. Whispers of condemnation replaced the awed silence. Sarah, drained but triumphant, finished her speech. She hadn't won a debate. She had won something far greater, the respect and empathy of her peers. As she left the stage, a wave of applause followed her, a tidal wave of support washing away the remnants of the elite's power. But as Sarah stepped off the stage, she was met not with congratulations, but with a stern-faced Professor Adams.
Sarah, we need to talk.
His eyes, usually twinkling with warmth, were now cold and distant. Confused and apprehensive, Sarah followed Professor Adams to his office. Inside, he closed the door and turned to face her, his expression unreadable.
Sarah, what you did tonight, it was manipulative, calculated. You used your personal struggles to sway the audience's opinion.
Sarah was speechless. She tried to explain, to tell him that she was only defending herself, but Professor Adams cut her off.
The ends don't justify the means, Sarah. You've become what you claim to fight against.
Professor Adams turned away from Sarah, shaking his head sadly. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, crushing Sarah's spirit. Section 3, The Revelation.
Sarah, you need to understand the gravity of what you've done.
Professor Adams's words struck Sarah like a physical blow. She had exposed the elite, but at what cost?
What have I done?
Suddenly, a terrifying thought occurred to her. What if the elite had been right?
No, it can't be.
She scrolled through the article again, this time with a growing sense of dread.
The greatest victory is that which requires no battle. What does that even mean?
Sarah realized with a chilling certainty that she had been played. The article, the silent weapons, it was all a game.
But who was playing, and for what purpose?
The screen fades to black, leaving Sarah's question hanging in the air, unanswered and deeply unsettling. Section 1. The Reckoning. The weight of her realization pressed down on Sarah. The thrill of victory had evaporated, leaving behind a bitter aftertaste. The faces of those she'd manipulated, even those who had wronged her, haunted her thoughts. Their pain, their confusion, it was a mirror reflecting her own distorted actions.
What have I become?
The once bustling campus, a place of learning and growth, now felt like a battleground littered with the casualties of her silent war. She had sought to protect herself, to rise above the pettiness and cruelty, but in doing so, had she become something monstrous?
I just wanted to survive.
The silence she had once wielded as a weapon now echoed around her, a constant reminder of the truth she could no longer ignore. The silence of her victims, the silence of her conscience, the deafening silence of her own complicity.
I'm so sorry.
The camera focuses on Sarah's hands, clenched tightly in her lap. As the image fades to black, a single tear rolls down her cheek, a silent testament to the storm raging within. Section 2. The Unseen Player. Driven by a desperate need to understand, Sarah delved deeper into the origins of the article. Who wrote it, and to what end? Her search led her down a rabbit hole of online forums, anonymous blogs, and encrypted messages.
There has to be someone behind this.
She discovered a network of individuals hidden in the darkest corners of the internet who seemed to relish in the chaos they created. They called themselves the Puppeteers, and they believed that the world was nothing more than a game, a grand experiment in social engineering.
The world is a stage, and we are the directors. What kind of twisted game is this?
Their weapon of choice? Information. They planted seeds of discord, manipulating events from the shadows, using people like Sarah as pawns in their twisted game. They reveled in the chaos, the division, the erosion of trust that followed in their wake.
This is so much bigger than I thought.
Sarah had stumbled upon something far bigger, far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. But what could she do? Who would believe her? She was just a student, a pawn in their game.
Or was I?
Section 3. Echoes of Doubt. As Sarah grappled with the enormity of her discovery, a glimmer of hope emerged from the ashes of her disillusionment. She had been manipulated, but she had also learned valuable lessons about power and control.
I can't just sit here and do nothing.
She had used the silent weapons for her own gain. But what if she could expose the puppeteers, to dismantle their web of manipulation? She had the power to fight back, to use her experience as a weapon against those who sought to control others.
I have to do something. I have to make this right.
The path ahead would be dangerous, fraught with uncertainty. But Sarah knew, with a newfound clarity, that silence was no longer an option. She had tasted the seductive poison of power, and she had seen the devastating consequences of its unchecked influence.
This ends now.
The final shot is of Sarah, bathed in the soft morning light streaming through her window. Her face, though still bearing the weight of her experiences, is now etched with determination. She is no longer the naive girl who stumbled upon the silent weapons. She is a warrior, ready to fight for the truth, armed with the knowledge that even in the darkest corners, a single voice can spark a revolution.